most homeowners are broke, not because of high interest rates or high inflation, but because they bought what the bank told them they are eligible for. That's the first mistake. In today's video, I'm going to talk about 3 such mistakes, and this is not going to be a cliche video on 3 mistakes to avoid as a first-time home buyer. These are going to be mathematical mistakes. Stick till the end because I'll be giving you an amazing calculator that will ensure that you do not make these 3 mathematical mistakes that most homeowners make, and that keeps them broke. So let's get started. My mission is simple. I want to retire 1 million immigrants with $5 million. Whether it's investing, real estate, tax strategies, or smart money moves, every video on this channel is designed to help you build wealth step by step. If you want to be part of this mission, all you need to do is subscribe and let's grow together. Now, coming back to the video, I'll talk about the 3 mistakes. The first one is eligibility is not equal to affordability. Here's the truth. What you are eligible for and what you can afford are 2 very different things. Let me give you an example of couple A and couple B. Both of these households make $150,000 in gross income every single year. When they went to their banks, both of them got an eligibility of $800,000. That's the amount of home that they can buy. Now let's look at their personal situations. Couple A has no kids and they do not send any money to their parents back home. Couple B has 2 kids, $1,500 in additional childcare and $1,500 that they send to their parents to support them. So tell me, even if their eligibility is the same, do you really think they can afford the same home? Of course not. And that's the problem. The bank looks at numbers, not your life. So we need to stop buying what the bank approves for us and start buying what you can sustain. And don't worry, I got you covered. I have an eligibility versus affordability calculator that I'll be talking about in a bit in this video. But first, let's talk about the second mistake, which is buying too quickly. We buy homes too fast. We get a raise and the first thought is, let's buy a home. Like, what the hell is wrong with us? Before buying, we need to tick all these 4 boxes. The first one is that you're able to save at least 20% of your net household income every single month. And when I say net household income, it means the money that hits your bank account every single month and not before tax money. Number 2, build an emergency fund. It should be for 3 months, ideally for 6. The third one is have a secure job, and that's important. And I'm not saying that you should have a government job. All I'm saying is you should be in an established organization that is not firing their people, and at least you should have some confidence with your manager that you're not going to lose your job in the coming future. Now, you can't guarantee that, and that's the reason why you have 3 to 6 months of emergency fund. And fourth one, have the minimum down payment plus closing cost ready. I would recommend doing 10% down payment. And if you want to know why, here's a video that you can watch. Buy because you're financially ready, not because the market, the news, and some random YouTubers said so. We need to stop listening to the fear mongering and speculating whether it's a right time to buy. Because forget the market, if you do not do these 4 things before you buy, you are not ready to buy a home even if the market crashes by 50%. And on the flip side, if you are ready with these 4 things and you buy right now within your means, within your affordability and not eligibility, and the market drops by 50%, you'll still come out ahead financially in the next 20 years. And I can prove this with maths. Give me just 2 minutes and we'll talk about the third mistake, which is wrong priorities in budgeting. We spend on everything: rent, mortgages, groceries, even some of the needs like travel and shopping. And whatever is left after our expenses goes towards saving and investing. That's the fastest way to broke. Our goal should be the opposite. After we buy a home, we should still be saving and investing 20% of our net household income after taxes and all the other mandatory expenses, which are also called needs. And then we leave the rest for the fun stuff like shopping and travel. If you can't make the maths work on this budget, you're not ready to buy a home. Period. Budgeting isn't emotional, it's mathematical. You either have the money or you don't. You either make $200,000 or you don't. There is no gray area here. That's why I built a calculator that you can use to avoid these mistakes. So you can download this from my website, which is Grow with Nav. I'll just leave that in the description below. Now I will explain you, what you need to do. You need to go to the first tab, which is questions. Start here. So it says, questions and start here. Let's just put in the details. You have to, input all the details here, and they are very simple details. Gross annual income, let's assume, is $165,000. This is before taxes. This is annual income. Net monthly income after taxes and deductions comes to $9,800. This is a typical example. I've just done calculations based on, a couple's salary, or if you're single and making $165,000, good for you, but your taxes will be a lot higher and you might not be taking home $9,800. But this is just an example. You can just input your numbers here. Include monthly childcare benefit numbers or any other benefits that you're getting on a monthly basis. You can include that because that's also income. Now, monthly car. So then we talk about monthly debts. Now, most first-time home buyers would only have a car payment. I hope that's the only debt that you have. And if you don't, then probably pay off that debt before thinking of buying a home. But let's assume that the monthly car payment, and you do not have to include insurance, car insurance and fuel cost into it. This is just the car payment that you pay, and which let's assume is $600 a month. Other monthly debt payments like student loans, line of credits, everything comes down to zero. Like I said, if this number is not zero, I would rather pay off those debts before thinking of buying a home. Now, you have to lay out the monthly expenses. That could be rent, including utilities, tenant insurance, and Wi-Fi. Let's assume that's $2,600. You're living in a nice condo, middle of the city. The car, which includes EMI, insurance, and gas, is let's say $1,200. A grocery, transport, phone bills. You send money home. If you don't, just input zero here. If you do miscellaneous needs, life insurance, whatever else you want to put under the needs section, you can put it here. Then you have shopping, eating out, and travel, which is basically your fun budget, which is your wants, and you can just put whatever you spend here. These are just hypothetical example, and miscellaneous wants could be anything that I have not included here. The net expenses come to about $5,900. So you are earning about $9,800 in this example, and the expenses are under $6,000. So this couple is actually saving almost $4,000 every single month. Then we have questions around down payment and closing. So you need to input these as well. How much down payment do you have saved? Let's say, you have saved this couple has saved $75,000. How much do you have for closing cost? It could be 15,000, it could be zero, it could be that you didn't know that there are closing costs, and I'll talk about that in my next, section. And then you have emergency fund, which is really important, that we talked about, earlier in this video. After down payment and closing costs, that's important. I don't understand why people feel that emergency fund, down payment, and closing costs are one thing. There are three different things, and therefore I have three different heads for this. After down payment and closing costs, you should have 3 to 6 months of emergency fund, which is extremely critical. Now, let's talk about the home, or kind of the idea of, what you want to buy. Now, everyone wants to buy a freehold. Most of the people that I talk to want to buy a freehold, which is basically not a condo with a condo fee. If it's a strata or a condo, what's the expected condo fee? So I'll take it at zero. If you are buying a condo, you can just input something here. Expected interest rate, you can actually change that, but I've taken at 4%. I don't know when you're ready to buy. 4% is not the best rate right now. 3.6, 3.7, 3.8%, depending on your profile, you can get, depending on your down payment as well. Don't hold me for this because you might be watching this 4 months from now. And the planned amortization in years, let's assume is 30 years, because you can take a 30-year amortization right now, even if you're not doing 20% down. That was not the case previously. Now we move on to, we have just inputted everything, and you do not have to change anything in the next sheet. It will just pre-populate. Everything will be done for you. You don't have to change anything. If you change anything here, the formulas can be, the formulas will just, move itself. So don't change anything here. Just take it as a static sheet, and I'll just explain how to read this sheet. Everything in red, the first column basically is the bank eligibility and the numbers that follow. Everything on the right is your affordability and the numbers that follow. So the way I calculate affordability is nothing but your mortgage payment. So affordability of a home, right? How did I get $720,000? Now, how is it different from 858? Now, bank eligibility is simple. They take into consideration something called as a GDS and TDS. I don't want to go into details. If you book a call and if you are looking for a mortgage, we can actually take you through the GDS and TDS calculations. We do that with all the clients. But that's the bank eligibility that is based on a certain set of numbers, and it's usually on gross income and not on net income, which makes no sense to me, but that's how the banks calculate it. If you look at your eligibility, this is just my formula where I feel that our mortgage payment plus property taxes, I don't take utilities here because you pay utilities even if you are renting, but your mortgage payment, property taxes, condo fees, that at least should be less than 35% of your household income, and this is net household income on a monthly basis after taxes. That's what hits our bank account. That ratio should be 35%, maximum 40%, but I'll still keep it, to 35% because I'm not, including utilities and maintenance in here. Utilities and maintenance, if you add that would add on another 2-3%, right? So I would like to keep it at 35%. Minimum down payment requirement, like you already know, it's 5% on the first $500,000, and for the remaining it's 10%. So 60,000 versus 47,000 because you're not buying very expensive. Then your down payment is $75,000. So in this case, you're actually doing a 10% down payment. Your closing cost will be between 1.5 to 2%. This includes our land transfer taxes, the rebates that you get as first-time home buyers. It's included. It's already excluded from here. It includes the legal fees, the title insurance, all those legal costs and taxes that you have to pay to the province and to the city. All that is inclusive of here. I've taken a 1.75%. Sometimes it's lower, 1.3, 1.4% as well, but it just depends on which city you are buying. But let's just take an average on the higher side, 1.75%. This is as a first-time home buyer. If you're a second-time home buyer, this calculator is probably not the best calculator, and you should just book a call and do the maths with us. This is only if you're a first-time home buyer. Total funds needed are closing cost plus down payment, so we need about 87 to 90. And if you look at the questions that I asked here, you have about 75 for down payment, 15 for closing costs. That makes it a total of $90,000 that you have for closing plus down payment. This 90 is more than 87 that's required here. That basically means that you have enough down payment. Now, if you did not have that, let's say you did not account for the closing cost, this comment will change to you are falling short of down payment plus closing cost by $12,000 because you only have 75, you need 87. Now, you can reduce your down payment to do it, but I choose to not include that in the calculation because it was very complicated to do it on an Excel. All right, let's get back here. Total loan, including the mortgage insurance, will be $645,000, 4% interest rate, 30-year amortization. Everything will be pre-populated. Your net monthly income is the same, and that's where the budget has to be reversed. The first one should be investing budget, which is 20%. That's what we talked about. Your investing budget should come first and then your expenses. And the investing budget in both these cases will be 20% of your net income, which is $1,960, just under $2,000. Now the expenses, mortgage payment is a lot lower. It's almost $800 lower. Let's assume that the property taxes are the same. There's no condo fee here. Utilities are the same. Let's assume around $400 inclusive of insurance. Maintenance, I've taken 0.5% of the home value. So 0.5% of the home value per year. So I've taken and then divided by 12 to get to a monthly number. And obviously you have bought a $720,000 home. So mathematically speaking, your maintenance will be a lot lower for a smaller home. And that is reflected here. But I've taken that into consideration. A lot of people skip it. Car, EMI, insurance, gas, I've just taken from the previous sheet. Grocery, public transport, phone bill, send money home, everything is taken from the previous sheet, so I've not changed anything here. Your net expenses become 8299 and 7430, and your surplus is minus 459 if you go with the bank eligibility. The reason why it's minus 459 is because you have already invested 1960 and then you had all the expenses and you did not have enough left after investing in expenses, and in fact you went into debt. That's the reason why people feel broke, because they follow the bank's advice on eligibility. Whereas you should be going with your affordability depending on your expenses. Because in this case, the second case, you are still left with a surplus, and this is after you have the down payment, the down payment, closing cost, emergency fund. You have sufficient emergency fund. I'll talk about that in a bit. You have invested 20% of your income and still left with $410, which you can use for fun, or you can invest that further. Let's talk about minimum emergency fund requirement. Again, all this is pre-populated. You don't have to do anything. Your emergency fund was $50,000 because you inputted $50,000, here in the question sheet. And the if you go with the second case, which is the ideal case that you should go with, you need about $44,000, which is 6 months of emergency fund. Now, $44,000 is nothing but your net expenses multiplied by 6. Now, here I have not included your investing, because if you lose your job, I would recommend not investing if you don't have the money for it, because investing, that's the only point where I would stop for the amount of months that I'm not getting more income in. This is just my expenses. I'll actually eliminate my wants as well to the minimum, but let's assume we don't eliminate that, and 6 months of expenses come to about $45,000. This is before investing, and you already have $50,000. Minimum I would want is $22,000, which is 3 months of emergency fund. So amazing, you have 6+ months of emergency fund. If you did not have that, this will change. So let's assume that you had $20,000, let's say, and this would say you should try to increase your emergency fund to a minimum of $22,290, which is your 3 months of emergency fund. So I have some level of automation built into this. This is not AI. This is just good Excel skills and crazy formulas, which is why I'm saying don't change all of this, because there are crazy formulas, here on this file. Let's talk about investment now. So monthly investing will not be 1960. It will in fact be 1960 minus 459. That will be about $1,500. So you're not investing 20% of your income. You're probably investing about 15%, which is not bad, but it's not ideal. And in this case, you are actually investing more. You're investing the 410, which is a surplus, on top of the 1960. So if you add that all up, it will be 2370 that you're investing. Let's assume that you increase the contribution that you are making every single month by 2% every year, because you get a hike. You can increase your lifestyle as well, but you choose to increase your investing on the same end. You can change this number to 3%, 4%, whatever. But let's assume we do 2%. Year-on-year return, let's assume 8%. Again, I'm going conservative. The 20-year average of S&P 500, the top 500 companies in the US, if you aggregate them, it's about 11% inclusive of dividends, right? So year-on-year return, let's assume 8%. So I'm being conservative here. Years of investing, let's say it's a 30-year mortgage, so you will be working for 30 years and you are investing for 30 years. At the end of 30 years, in scenario one where you did not buy, you actually went with the bank's way of doing things, you ended up with a portfolio of $2.5 million, which is not bad, right? If you do the right things, you still end up with $2.5 million in your stock portfolio, along with a paid off house. But it could be a lot better. You could end at a $4 million number, and you will still have a paid off house just because you bought within your means. And if you are saying that, no, I cannot find a home for $720,000, which is your affordability, I would question you on that, because you can find a home, like a really nice freehold home in Ajax, Whitby, Kitchener, for instance. You can buy a really nice home right now. Yes, it will not be ideal. Yes, you would want a fancier, backyard, and therefore you would be tempted to go towards your, bank eligibility. But if you are taking the first route of going to the max eligibility, also have a plan to make more money so that you can get these expenses to a more manageable level. This maths is the holy grail, the one tool that will make sure that you never go broke after buying a home. We are Indians, of course we want our own home, and it makes sense. Having a paid off home at retirement will help us keep our expenses to a minimum at a time where our active income will be zero. And on the other hand, if you are a hardcore renter and an absolute no to buying a home, that's okay too, because you are investing the difference. I hope you are. And I get it. If you are investing the difference and if you are against buying a home, you could still make it work mathematically. But if you do this right, you can buy a home, you can pay it off early, have that rent and mortgage-free retirement, and like we saw in this example, have a sizable investment portfolio to go with it. All you need to do is run the maths, and this calculator will help you do that. Now, if you are someone who is wondering whether renting is better than buying or vice versa, I have this video explaining this. I have a calculator here where you can actually do the maths for yourself. I love mathematics and it doesn't lie. I hope this is helpful. Just click here and you can watch that video. That's all I have for today. मिलते हैं अगली वीडियो में. तब तक के लिए bye bye.